This is the OPA Alice Serena microphone by Jules Ryckebusch, and I have some scientific evidence here to show you how clean this circuit is. Check this out.
From the mind of Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov.
So Jules wrote this paper that he submitted to AES, which is something that, top people in their fields do across every industry, is that they submit papers to their industry trade organizations. And so this AES paper from Jules really highlights how clean the OPA Alice circuit is, especially compared to modern FET circuits. And when I say modern FET circuits, that's almost an anachronism, because the FET circuits that we use in microphones really derives from designs that are decades old, that go back to the era of tape. So in the era of digital, where all things are revealed, where recordings are more detailed, and where you can pick out really the faults a lot easier, the FET really kind of stands out as a bottleneck in the sound. And when I say that, I say it lovingly, because FETs have their own character to them. A lot of them impart their own sound onto the microphone. Like on the U87, for example, the 2N3819 definitely has some character to it. It's not a clean FET, but it's part of the overall U87 signature sound. So what Jules did was he took what arguably is the cleanest FET that was available at the time, the J305. And if you're into DIY, you may recognize that. Oh, by the way, before I forget, you're listening to the Serena mic going through the Hairball Gold preamp with no EQ on it. So when I had it going through the transformerless preamp through the MT-48, I did put some guardrails on it. I did put it at what did I do? 80 hertz and 10K, right? Roll-offs there. But going through the transformer of the Hairball Gold, which has an input transformer and an output transformer, and yet it's a very clean preamp, does help roll off that top end. It makes the top end a lot more manageable without EQ. Now, the low end feels a little bit smoother and tighter. It's a little bit too big for voiceover like this, but for content creation, for podcasting, for this kind of purpose, I like it. It feels big. So, but that's what I love about this mic is it's very shapeable. It's a blank slate, and you can create the sound you want on top of it. So what Jules did, going back, but I digress. So going back, here, let me show you something. So Jules compared the OPA circuit, which uses an op-amp, to the J305 FET. Okay? Now the J305 is supposed to be pretty clean. And look at the difference here. This is really interesting. So in this graph, right, what you're seeing is, go over here. So 2K, right? So you're injecting a 1K tone into the circuit, which is why you have an identical spike on both sides, right, for the J305 and the OPA. So 1K tone inserted into the circuit, and you would expect there to be, harmonics that would appear in the circuit. So here you see the OPA, which is the blue line, and here 2K, right? And here at 3K, you can see the harmonics, secondary harmonics coming up. And here, right here, right? Look at this bump. It's like at minus 108. But the J305 does have secondary harmonic distortion coming in at about 57. So there is a significant amount. There's at least almost 50 dB. I would say easily you could just say there's 40 dB plus less harmonic distortion in the OPA circuit than there is with a JFET. Basically, I think people like a higher resolution capture. And with the OPA Alice, you're getting that because you can always add in THD. You can always add in harmonic distortion later. You can use a plug-in. You can use a different preamp. But you can't take it away. You can't subtract that 40 extra dB of harmonic distortion that you get with a JFET circuit. You just can't. There's no plugin that will pull that out, that will clean that up. But that again, so this is why I am so like geeked out about the OPA Alice circuit. It really has this clarity to it and the shapeability of it. The malleability of it, the adaptability of it, and just the way you can easily make it sound great by plugging it into a good preamp. You know, if you plug it into just a regular interface, which has usually has a very vanilla sounding preamp. And a lot of those preamps don't really sound that great overall. They don't really have a lot of clarity throughout the entire frequency range because they're limited by the limited amount of power that they run on. But that's a whole topic for a different day. But, so when you use it through a clean preamp, you might be like, oh, this is boring and sterile, because it needs something. It needs to be treated with something. You know, on its own, it has an interesting, very clean, precision, precise sound, which you may want if you're recording, let's say you're recording classical instruments. Let's say you're recording a choir, right? You want something as close to pristine as possible. You want something that doesn't impart its character onto the sound, right? You want something clean like this. That's why a mic like this, I think, is essential for everybody's mic locker, regardless of what you do. If you are a recordist, if you record a lot of stuff, you will want something that's this clean, whether it's this mic or a different OPA Alice mic. But the point is that I don't know if there's a cleaner mic circuit out there than the OPA Alice currently. And I think that's pretty exciting because this is very accessible. So again, the Serena mic by Jules Ryckebusch, who's also known as Sound Sleuth. So the Sound Sleuth OPA Alice Serena, you can find it at JLI Electronics as a kit. And as a kit, it's actually pretty cool because it's very easy to put together compared to other kits because it's 2 circuit boards that sit back to back inside the mic. And they're already pre-populated with all the parts. So you don't have to solder in any parts to it. You just basically have to solder in the 3 wires to the jack. And I would suggest if you build it, solder the wires into the XLR jack first, and then insert the XLR jack through the bottom of the mic. And then you just solder those 3 wires to the corresponding parts on the board, right? The XLR 1, 2, 3. And then there are like two wires that get soldered onto the boards from the capsule. And that's it. You install the capsule, you put the mic together with a screwdriver, right? Screw the head basket on. So as far as DIY goes, it's pretty simple. But what you get is this, and I think this is really cool. So super clean, just beating the pants off of a FET in terms of clarity and lack of distortion. But what do you think? Again, I'm enamored with this thing, and I think that really the intention of the design is really special here because what Jules was going for and what he achieved here is something that is really probably the cleanest microphone that you can get, the cleanest microphone circuit you can get. And then you can do it up in whatever way you want. You know, this circuit with a K47 style capsule on it, with a C12 style capsule on it, with an M7 style capsule on it. I mean, you can definitely make a whole bunch of different mics with the same circuit and that all have the same clarity and all have the same ability to be shaped into whatever you want. So again, I'm geeked out by this mic. The mic nerd in me really just kind of like, I look at this mic and I'm just like so fascinated by it. But what do you think, my fellow mic nerds? Is this too nerdy for you? Or is this just right there, hitting the sweet spot? Let me know, all right? You know what to do. Leave a comment. Until next time, this is Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov on the OPA Alice Serena, fading to black.